Hello and welcome to our latest podcast, where we will be taking a deep dive into the topic of e-commerce packaging. I'm Libby Munford, editor of Packaging Europe, and I'm pleased to be joined today by a top expert on the subject, Diana Neto, who is Business Development Manager of E-commerce and Barrier Coatings at HB Fuller. Firstly, welcome, Diana. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Libby, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Firstly, I'd just like you to tell me just a little bit about your background at HB Fuller.
So as you said, I'm the Business Development Manager at HB Fuller, where I lead the development of adhesive solutions, both for e-commerce and barrier coatings in Europe. I joined the company last year after spending 11 years in the food packaging industry. In my role as a BDM at HB Fuller, I collaborate with all key players in the e-commerce packaging ecosystem, from brand owners and OEMs to packaging converters, retailers, and fulfillment centers. And my focus in my job is supporting them with adhesive solutions that enable the creation of packaging designs that are both functional and efficient, but also align with their sustainability goals and also operational requirements. And I'm excited to share how adhesives, innovation, and e-commerce packaging are evolving together.
Thank you, Diana. And I'd like to start by diving straight into the topic of e-commerce. I'd like to know how HB Fuller is currently innovating when it comes to the e-commerce packaging sphere.
So, as the global leader in pure play adhesives, HB Fuller is committed to innovation that addresses real world challenges and that also responds to our customers' pain points. But we also lead on the e-commerce packaging market with cutting edge technologies that make the difference to the market. And one good example of this innovation driven mindset is that, for instance, HB Fuller was the first to launch a fiber-based tier tape for e-commerce packaging, enabling recyclability and the transition to 100% fiber-based packaging, maintaining the performance and convenience. At HB Fuller, we don't innovate only on the product formulations or the product itself. We also deliver, for instance, other solutions that are complementary to our products. And we have a good example with, for instance, an equipment that complements our adhesives offering for a specific machine and adhesive types, making automation fitting possible for that adhesive type. So this is the kind of technical, or if we can say, whole solution that we can provide to our partners. And we remain focused in transforming the market with solutions that are sustainable, functional, and that meet their evolving needs with the rising expectation from the market.
Thank you. And next, I'd like to ask you, what are the requirements and objectives that you see from your e-commerce customers?
So if we think about the global e-commerce landscape, there are common ground. I would say functionality. So reliable adhesives that can securely close the packaging. So that meet the first and most important feature of packaging, which is the protection of the goods that are inside that packaging, but also economy. So which means adhesives that can help the retailers and the end users to save and to streamline their operations. And I'm thinking about, if we think about reducing the total cost of ownership, adhesives that can have better mileage, save on energy costs as well, help with cleaner running, good machinability, so this kind of features. But if we think that e-commerce is a very complex business, so we don't have only one type of customer, they will have unique needs and unique requirements depending on their type of business. And I'm thinking, for instance, if we think about packaging converters, they will probably focus more on having PSA hot melts that stand with a broader temperature range, while just giving you basic examples, for instance, fulfillment centers will prioritize machine speed, fast setting adhesives, the clean running. And if we look to finally the brand owners, they will probably be more interested in the part of the sustainability, how adhesives can help with recyclability and reducing carbon footprint, how can contribute to their sustainability goals as well.
So that sounds like quite a big sort of balancing act, actually, to me, across all the different factors there. When it comes to the economics of adhesive efficiency, how does HB Fuller focus, on helping operations and saving costs?
This is an interesting question because adhesives, they represent a very tiny part of the packaging itself. So usually they represent less than 5% of the total packaging cost. But the impact that they can have on the packaging performance is huge. And I was referring to you the total cost of ownership and all those features. So we have, for instance, adhesives that can have a better mileage. And I'm thinking in one PSA that we have developed that can have the same performance, let's say keeping the same tamper-proof bonding and secure closing with 23% less adhesive consumption. So you apply less adhesive for the same amount of packaging, but also it enables to reduce the carbon footprint, as this is a bio content or bio-based PSA hot melt. So it contributes for both sustainability with reducing the amount, but also economically of the adhesive that you apply. But we also have low temperature adhesives that allow for energy savings while offering a safer environment for the operators, because you have lower temperature, so you also reduce the risk of severe skin burns. And if we think, last but not least, not forget about the impact that having reliable adhesives can have. So having a package that really functions and that is not returned or, let's say, replaced because of bad adhesive performance.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That sounds like quite a complex array of things that you're addressing there. I'd like to focus on reducing downtime, cleaner running, equipment changes. What are the main challenges you face, and how do you focus on developing positive outcomes?
Well, so one of the most common challenges that we face is that retailers often look for the short-term profit. That means they go for low quality adhesives, and sometimes that ends up ruining their operations. And we had one very good example with a huge that was one of our customers, and they were using a poor quality EVA adhesive, and they were constantly having nozzle blockages, guns leaking, replacing spare parts, and having many stops downtime on their lines. So this was a very sophisticated fulfillment center with the most sophisticated and bigger output machines that you can imagine in the market. And they were not making the most out of their machines because they were constantly having this kind of problems due to the poor quality of the adhesives. So when they started using our metallocene adhesive that was recommended by our technical team, they immediately saw the advantages. They started having cleaner operations, and they were able to run for longer time without stopping and without having to clean the mess, and having better bonded packaging. So this is a good example of how we work with this kind of fulfillment centers and customers. This can happen in any situation. I'm giving the example because if we think about the impact that this can have in a big fulfillment center that has to meet very short lead times, like next day delivery, and if you multiply the amount of stops by multiple lines and the impact that this can have in the operations, it's really huge. And of course, not to mention as well, the stress that this causes to their teams, because it's not just the direct costs of the maintenance and the equipment, but it's also to keep eroding your teams, your operators' mindset as well.
That's some really interesting examples you've given there. I'd really like to hear more about the fulfillment centres. What role do you play as an adhesives provider, and how do you fit into the value chain?
Well, I would say that ultimately the fulfillment centers are our end user, even in the cases where we don't sell the adhesives directly to them. We always need to keep in mind their pain points, their needs, their expectations as well. So even if we sell the PSA adhesives or the tapes that go into manual packaging, they end up using that manual packaging in their operations. So it has to meet very different requirements, from easy to use for fast peel and seal, being able to return, to be prepared for returnability. And if we think about the automated operations, they need ready to use adhesives that can meet those big speeds, those fast speeds of their machines. So the adhesives need to be fast setting, but they don't meet just the machine requirements. We also need to keep in mind the substrate that is used, the packaging format, of course, the machine speed, the type of material that is packed inside those boxes or mailers, the type of packaging itself as well. So HB Fuller here works with OEMs to pre-validate the adhesives with OEMs and the suppliers of the application equipment to have ready to go adhesives that perform in the best conditions to meet all these parameters of the packaging. We tend to think about adhesives as a very simple product, but it's very complex. It's not one hot melt fits all. They are very complex and tailored to meet all these very specific requirements, let's say.
Definitely learning this today. There does sound like a lot of complexities behind your innovation.
Absolutely.
I'd like you to tell me about the rise in automation in e-commerce. How does this influence your innovation when it comes to adhesives?
Again, automation is a rising trend. It will not stop, in my opinion. Automation is convenient, is flexible, it allows to scale up operations, so it will continue growing in the upcoming years. So having these reliable adhesives that can help fulfillment centers and retailers to meet the maximum speed or the maximum outputs of their machines is really important. And this is where HB Fuller is also working on innovating to meet this rising expectation for not only the fulfillment centers, but the rising expectations of the end consumers as well.
Mm-hmm. And changing subjects slightly, can you explain to me what HB Fuller's role is when it comes to the topic of reverse logistics?
Yeah, so if we think about the return rates that we have in e-commerce nowadays, which are estimated around 30%, this represents huge costs for retailers. Often packaging designs do not contemplate the returnability feature, or the adhesives are not thought for that. Not just the packaging design, also the adhesives need to be thought for that. So if we think that in a packaging that does not have a opening assistant or easy opening feature, the consumer can completely destroy the package when he receives it. So if you think of yourself as a consumer and you order 5 or 3 pieces of garment and you need to return just one of them, you would probably use the original packaging if you could. But if it's not prepared to be returned, if you destroy it when you open it, or if it's not adjustable, it will end up representing additional costs for the retailer, because they commonly offer free returns. So the packaging will be not efficient because it will be either too big, or they will end up using some other packaging, and especially if they are not a packaging nerd like myself, because I keep lots of boxes. I always save them because I may need to use them one day. So probably, and we've seen lots of packaging fails on customer to customer platforms, like people shipping their t-shirts on used chips bags or on bottles of water. So this is the last thing that retailers want, for people to return their goods in one of these kind of packaging, because not only it can be, as I said before, not adjusted to size, and they will end up shipping more air, but also it may turn the goods inside not proper to be reconditioned and resold again, so they end up being destroyed. And not only this is costly, but this is also not sustainable at all. So packaging designs that are fit to size and adjustable for returns, and that have adhesives for easy opening and easy peel and seal for returns, they allow for more efficient and less costly reverse logistics, let's say.
That's really interesting food for thought there. So, really, what role do adhesives play within the reusability and returnability of e-commerce packaging?
Having these easy returns features. But if we think about reusability, adhesives are also fundamental for this feature as well. And PPWR foresees that e-commerce packaging will have to meet certain amount of returnable packaging in the upcoming years, with increasing percentages. And adhesives here need to meet different requirements. They can be either providing extra strength to packaging to keep the integrity throughout the number of cycles that it will last. We can also think about waterproofing. This can help extend the paper-based packaging life when we think about paper-based packaging. But we also may think about removable shipping labels or resealable flaps that allow for the packaging to be open and reclosed without fiber tear, which is the exactly opposite that we want to meet when we think about tamper evident packaging. But as reusable packaging will be, let's say, kept under a closed loop for keeping the track of a number of cycles, and probably lockers will be one of the best logistic chains to introduce reusable packaging, but others are also possible. But adhesives here, of course, play a fundamental role in allowing packaging to be reused without being damaged, and keeping the integrity and keeping products properly safe and secure as well.
So far, thank you so much for sharing your expertise when it comes to e-commerce packaging. I'd like to know how important it is to tackle the challenges of e-commerce packaging as a whole within the packaging industry.
So at HB Fuller, we are strong advocates of the power of collaboration, because when we hear one part of the situation, there are many other blind points that we are missing. So having the early collaboration of the whole value chain, it's very important to troubleshoot and accelerate the go-to-market with new developments. And on the other hand, when we hear the challenges of all the parts involved, we can have a holistic approach and serve much better the expectations of the whole value chain involved, from packaging designers to brands and consumers as well.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see the e-commerce packaging developing over the next few years? What are you expecting to see?
So we are already seeing some of these factors, like sustainability, with the push from regulation. Sustainability will keep being one of the key factors. The focus on the customer experience, especially with younger generations having higher expectations from their online orders, from faster delivery, better packaging, more customized. So these are all increasing expectations that put enormous pressure under packaging and, of course, adhesives as well. AI is one of the things that we cannot skip nowadays and will, I believe, increasingly be influencing packaging development to enable smarter, data-driven decisions. It will allow probably to optimize material, even adhesive application on automated lines, predict material performance, reduce waste, help for more efficient and responsible packaging systems, but also to improve the end of cycle of packaging with better sortation for recycling, for instance.
That's really interesting. So you've spotlighted AI there. My next question for you was, what will be the main influences today and into the future, in your opinion? So is AI really the top one for you?
Yeah, AI, of course, digitalization and AI for this. And I believe will have probably implications in packaging that we can perhaps not even imagine now. Smarter packaging with real-time control and tracking. As I said, creating smarter, more efficient packaging. Regulatory compliance is so sustainability, rethink materials around recyclability and carbon footprint as well. As I was saying, the consumer expectations for, again, more sustainable packaging as well, not just from regulatory, but also from consumer expectations. This will be influencing the packaging. Automation, and this can be also linked to AI. Again, the binomium between automation and AI can really drive packaging into other dimensions. And material innovation, so new substrates, molded fibers, bio-based materials emerging, and adhesives will have to adapt to bond effectively all these materials and keep up with these trends and helping streamlining packaging within all this evolving landscape, let's say.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Diana, and sharing your expertise on this topic, this deep dive into e-commerce packaging. Is there anything we haven't covered or you would like to leave our audience with as a final thought on this topic?
I've addressed the major part of the challenges that we face. And I think one of the biggest messages that I would leave to our listeners would be, as I mentioned previously, the power of collaboration. So involving early in the development all the parts and adhesive suppliers, because often we tend to look at the adhesives as a not important part of packaging because it represents such a low percentage of packaging, but they can really play a vital role in the packaging performance. So we really can help, and our technicians can help with more efficient packaging designs. That would be one of the biggest messages that I would leave.
Thank you. I feel like it's obviously a very integral part of the packaging, even though it's a small part. So it's really interesting to hear all the challenges and issues that you have around e-commerce packaging. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Libby, for the invitation. It was a pleasure to share with you.
And thank you to our listeners. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.